Denis O'Rourke.
This question is for the Minister of Transport. Does he agree with the conclusion in the 2012 New Zealand Transport Agency commissioned report by Opus International that the coastal shipping followed by rail are the most effective modes of transporting freight over long distances in New Zealand?
Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Mr Speaker, the statement included in that question comes from a very simplistic reading of that report, as it depends on which item is being freighted at any one time. What that report did is take one container and send it on 5 different modes around New Zealand and conclude that that was an exhaustive way of working out what was the best way to transport any goods around this country. So I don't agree with the statement in its entirety.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Denis O'Rourke.
Why has he rejected the Hawke's Bay Regional Council's initiative to invest $5.5 million of ratepayers' money over 5 years to re-establish a rail service on the mothballed Napier-Gisborne line if the government makes a similar modest investment of $3 million to $4 million in repairs to the damaged track and other infrastructure so that a locally established company can lease the restored line and purchase the rolling stock from Kiwi Rail?
Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Because I have great respect for the ratepayers of that district. And secondly, what I would tell the member is that if you look at the freight demand coming out of the area, right now, for 2 months of the year, it puts an extra 17 trucks on the road per day, and that is all that is in the increase. Mr Speaker, we have looked at that proposal. It comes from a group of people who are very keen on the idea, but it simply does not stack up, and if we supported it, it would be a tragedy for the New Zealand taxpayer, and it would be a bigger tragedy for the ratepayers of the Hawke's Bay.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Denis O'Rourke.
Is the Minister aware that the Council and the Napier-Gisborne Rail Establishment Group consider that his ill-considered rejection of the initiative is based on a significant misunderstanding of their proposal? And if so, will he now reconsider it in the comprehensive manner that it actually deserves?
Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Mr Speaker, we have considered that proposal in a very comprehensive way. What I would say to the member is that if the Hawke's Bay people are so keen on funding that rail line, why do they need the relatively modest part from the government, as he suggests? If it's so good and it's going to work so well, why don't they just come along and say, let us have the track so we can make it all work?
Supplementary.
Order. Supplementary question, Denis O'Rourke.
Does the Minister accept that this region cannot depend solely on a narrow, winding state highway when the log harvest alone heading for Napier Port is expected to go from 90,000 tonnes per annum at present to around 900,000 tonnes within a few years, adding at least 180 more logging truck movements 6 days a week on a road that is already congested with heavy vehicles? And if not, why not?
Order.
Mr Speaker,
Jerry
it won't
Brownlee.
matter how emphatic the member is in asking a question loaded with bogus facts. The reality is that no logs have travelled on that line at any point, and secondly, the so-called wall of wood has been promised for decades, and third, until it does materialise, until it is there, why on earth would you expect the government to put the head of the ratepayers in that district in the noose for some people who in the end won't accept that their figures are not good enough to make it work?
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Denis O'Rourke.
Does the Minister confirm that the creation recently of 9 new passing areas on State Highway 2 between Napier and Gisborne at a cost of $4 million, made possible by a special Crown contribution and the National Land Transport Program allocation of $9 million to $10 million over a 3-year period to improve the condition of that highway for a large increase in truck movements, means that the government will continue to favour expensive, but relatively minor road improvements over a rail restoration proposal with a much better cost-benefit ratio in both the short and the long terms.
Honourable Jerry Brown.
Mr Speaker, if this member keeps on putting these figures in front of us, David Cunliffe's going to reconsider his coalition options. There is no way that anything he said makes any sense. Yes, we put more money into making that road safer because, surprisingly, 97% of all the freight coming out of that area has always gone on the road.
Supplementary.
Order, order, order. Order. Supplementary question, Denis O'Rourke.
Are there any plans to extend electrification of the rail network and in doing so to retain the valuable human resource of the expert and skilled team that is undertaking the Auckland rail network electrification? And if not, why not?
Honourable Jerry Brown.
Mr Speaker, certainly not on the Gisborne to Napier line.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order. Point of order. Oh, this is a point of order and I want to hear it in silence.
The question had nothing to do with the Napier-Gisborne line and was a general question that requires a proper answer.
I'm going to, on this occasion, ask the member to repeat the question.
The question, Mr Speaker, was this. Are there any plans to extend electrification of the rail network and in doing so to retain the valuable human resource of the expert and skilled team that is undertaking the Auckland rail network electrification? And if not, why not?
Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Mr Speaker, not at this point.
Question number 5. Order. 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 Honourable Annie King, question number 5.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.